Hi guys, Luton here, back with another ZEUS mission for Arma 3, probably one of the best ZEUS missions that we have done in a long time. This video is actually about a month old at this point because I couldn't do such a long commentary while my voice was still totally destroyed. So here we are. This is a northern west island in Altis, and the objective with this island will become clear soon enough. But the idea for this mission really was that instead of having to attack an enemy base and clear it out or whatever, the NATO forces this time were going to have to defend the island. They were going to have to get to the base. They've been called up to, you know, get out there. They've had an emergency call, or they've been ordered that they have to go and secure the base. So there are some pieces of equipment here already. As you can see, they've got like a cheetah, some helmets, there's some of the towers around, and I've been placing guns on the towers. Something I will note, right, is that a bug that, well, it's not a bug, it's just something that we discovered. Running INA right now on the servers, so it's not like ZEUS just runs by itself. There's always another mission running at the same time. Now that mission has a cleanup script, which means that when the mission is completed, it basically cleans up the area and removes a lot of objects. Objects including stationary weapons like those guns. So okay, by the way is the this is the science base, and there basically are scientists here on this mission. These are scientists, they're just AI. And the idea is that the NATO force are here to protect that science team and stop the CSAT, who will be attacking the island, from killing them. So they have quite a large area to cover here because the CSAT guys are going to be trying to helicopter in, they're going to be coming up in boats, they're going to be coming up in amphibious armoured vehicles, and the guys are going to have to do a real 360 you know, defensive approach, and it gets pretty intense at some points. But anyway, about these guns, now coming along here to these bunkers and stuff, and you can see I've got more stationary weapons down here. Now originally this was a great idea. I wanted to give them the tools that they needed to do the mission. But unfortunately what happens is that when that cleanup script runs at the end of the main INA mission, it also cleans up all the guns that I have placed down. We are working on a fix for this, but it's not really a priority right now. But it's just one of those irritating things. So if a ZEUS mission has been running on for quite a long time, and the main mission, perhaps there's a team in there that complete that, it will remove those items. So it's a bit annoying. But you know, this was kind of unusual because the base was pretty large, and I'd actually managed to put down quite a few of these things. Often if it's a smaller mission, it's very easy for me to just re-drop them back in here. But across this kind of area, it's a bit more tricky because there are quite a few here. So here we are, first insertion now, and the team are on the way to take the base. Now unusually, as I say, there he goes. Unusually, they don't have to actually, you know, attack on the way in here. All they have to do is deploy, and I said I'd give them a set amount of time, like 5-10 minutes, to look around the base, decide where they want to be, you know, speak to each other, figure out where they may need to defend from, what equipment they already have on the base, what they might need, and so on and so on and so on. So it starts out pretty safe, and this is unusual because most ZEUS missions do tend to be sort of attacking a position or something along these lines. You know, it's pretty straightforward. You know, here's the enemy, you've got to go clear them out, you've got to kill XYZ. And I wanted to change it up a little bit with a defensive mission, and you know, doing some more of these, or you know, perhaps doing like an escort mission, so they have to escort a target to a certain point. I did a really good one the other day, which I often do these missions that don't get recorded, usually when I'm trying something new out because I want to see whether it works or not, or just, you know, because I'm just having a kind of casual play around. We did a great one the other day where there was some AI, and the idea was that the AI had to sort of they had to break through a blockade down to a harbour, and the friendly forces had to kind of basically stop that from happening. They did a really excellent job of it. They set up across road points, they set roadblocks up, they put mines down, and you know, despite the fact that there was about 4 or 5 different routes in and out of this city, between about 20 guys they managed to lock the whole thing down. So it was really impressive, and yeah, as always is the case, I wish I had actually recorded it. So they're just setting up right now, they're just getting in on these bases and sort of moving around the island. It takes a little bit of time for them to get down. You can see there's a little harbour that I've set down there on the island as well. They actually had some boat resources there if that was necessary, but nothing actually got used. And there's still more troops coming in to deploy. This was a very popular mission on the evening that I did it, and we had like 3-4 units coming out here to deploy. So they've maybe got a good, I would say, 20 people on the island at this point. Although you can see those red and blue markers, not all of those are visible to me as ZEUS, so some players don't appear to me. I can still see them on the map and stuff, but they don't appear to me sort of highlighted like this when I'm in ZEUS mode. And you can see that I've just realised right now that these guns have disappeared. So before I actually start bringing in some of that AI, I wanted to give them a little bit of reinforcement, so I just went around dropping some of those in. Okay, so now some of the AI has been deployed, and what we have here is, as I said, some amphibious vehicles, some attack boats, and some smaller troop deployment boats. And those are going to be the first kind of initial forces that start coming towards the island. Now, one thing that's always a little bit tricky is that it can be quite frustrating sometimes to get the AI to behave how you want to. Despite giving them a clear instruction of go to here, they often don't respond to this. This can actually make it quite tricky sometimes when you're in sort of a high stress situation where you're trying to get the AI to behave in a certain way, to react perhaps to what human people are doing, and it just often doesn't really work very well. Again, right now, you know, those guys were just not moving, so I had to kind of drag, drop, redeploy, get them to actually move out of there. You can see the attack boats here have started coming under the first initial fire, so really good here. I mean, you can see that the friendly public players are getting straight onto those targets straight away. They've identified. There we go, there goes the first boat. So immediately they've gone onto these targets and they're taking them out. So really good kind of observations and good on-point targeting skills. Second attack boat is down. Neutralise those two threats before they came anywhere near to actually becoming a threat to the base. So because they took those out so fast, I wanted to change it up a little bit. I've already deployed some reinforcement locations. Those are basically where I drop down a landing zone and then a deployment point, and then you can call in extra units right here. So right now I'm just selecting these unarmed aircraft, and then you can see where it says sort of behaviour and so on. It says RTB and despawn. So that basically means that once it's dropped off the forces, it will return to base and despawn. So it'll go back to that position and then disappear. You can also set it to stay on the landing zone site if you want to do that. That's often a good thing to do if you're bringing in, say for example, armoured troop trucks or things like that, and you want them to stay there as you know, reinforced protection. Okay, so you can see some of the boats have actually moved up here to the initial point that I set them, and so I'm just kind of telling those to move in here as well. You can see already that some of the helicopters that I had coming in here are coming under pretty heavy fire, and the AI helicopters will not sort of just point blank go to an LZ and then just try to land. This one here is taking an absolute kicking. See, they're lighting up with those mounted machine guns. They won't just go to the set landing zone and then just crash land. They will fly around. If they start taking hits, they will sort of, you know, try and get some air up there. They'll fly around some more. You can see like this one right here. They'll fly around. They'll try and get to a position where they feel it's safe to land. They'll often fly around for a good amount of time, like 5-10 minutes, you know, waiting for maybe an opportunity to land. You can see the cheetah here, and he's looking the wrong way. And the guys up here on top, you can see with those mounted guns, really firing the long range. The mounted guns are particularly powerful because they can really hit those targets at range. Zooming in also around this same area, we have got the amphibious armoured vehicles coming up, and you can see them here with their epic little rotors underwater. So then I moved off to the southwest of the island, and I started deploying some more boats because that, you know, that southeast attack really didn't work. So I wanted to bring them in here from the southwest position, and we have a load more boats coming in here. And they'd handled that whole thing pretty well. So I really wanted to throw a ton of stuff down here and really try and put the pressure on them, see if they can handle this. Because with all of these, the guys from the boats will disembark when we can get them to the beach. And so I was really hoping that if I was sending like 6, 7, 8 boats, that they might actually be able to get up here. And you can see that basically when I'm clicking the direction for them to move to, they will start moving up from that point. But when you click a direction, if you select like 3 vehicles at the same time, like so, and then I click like this, see, it all tells them to go to that one point. That's not always a good thing to do. Here we go, so I'm going to set another point. Now watch what happens right here. What I'm going to do, they each have an individual point, so I will drag that off to ensure that they go to those individual points. That is actually important to do, because if you set just one point for 3 vehicles, they're obviously going to all try and go to that same point. They're probably not going to get to that point and like crash into one another in a really extreme way, but it may mean that it can kind of confuse their overall driving line when they're trying to get to a position. And you can see also with those patrol boats, I've set again 3 separate points. So it's just a good thing to do when you're trying to set like multiple vehicles at the same time, because you obviously don't want them driving all over each other, and with AI that will happen. So there's more friendly helicopters coming in. This is a friendly helicopter that's deployed and is moving back out. But interestingly, as you can see, the Marids actually start putting it under fire there as it's escaping. So the AI will just randomly engage. It doesn't require me to say like, hey, shoot XYZ person. Just providing they're in the area, they will start shooting at things. And you can see that the friendly forces now have started attacking the Marids coming in. They've gotten to a range now where the guys can actually lock on and get involved. And I thought it would be cool to just hop in here. I can, as ZEUS, remote control any vehicles. I can just get on and sort of take control of the gunner, the driver, whatever I want to. And right here, sometimes, I've seen a lot of people in my videos saying that, Luton, you handle ZEUS quite well, you're fair to the players, you don't sort of abuse it. As a ZEUS, there is obviously a massive potential to abuse it. You can see where all of the friendly players are. I can call in pretty much anything I want to. I can sit far away and lay down the fire, pretty much as I am doing right here. But the thing is that what I'm doing right here, if you notice, is that I'm not shooting directly at any enemies, okay? I was shooting at that hunter because that thing's OP as hell, but I'm basically, and again, like here, look at this range, I can't see any targets at this range, I can't see what I'm shooting at. So I'm just trying to give them the impression that they're coming under fire, because one thing that I do very regularly as ZEUS is I try to make human players on Invade and Annex feel under pressure a bit more. Because very often what tends to happen is a lot of people will sit at a long distance away. A distance away where the AI would not normally engage them. And I often think it takes some of the kind of pressure and fun out of it, because they don't really feel under pressure. Instead, they're just sort of taking these extreme long-range pot shots with no real danger to themselves. And it's like I always feel, if you can see the AI well enough that you're shooting at them, then realistically the AI should also be shooting back at you. But a lot of the time they don't. But if I'm ZEUSing, I like to get in there and put the pressure back. But again, look, you see they're handling it, but it's just good to kind of put that pressure on and wake people up a little bit and make them think like, hey man, Christ, these things are shooting at us, and then they have to get down, they have to change position. It just makes the whole experience a little bit more interactive, and it makes it a little bit more engaging, and it makes it not so boring as well, because it's all very well to have like a cool base and loads of things coming up that you have to attack and so on and so on, but if they're never shooting back at you, it is essentially just a shooting target gallery, which isn't that enjoyable for anybody. You can see the AT guys doing a really good job of taking down those attack boats. And those attack boats are dangerous. They've got a minigun cannon on the back, and they've got a GMG cannon on the front, so they are pretty lethal. You get a few of those GMG rounds landing in here, and you can see right here, this is one of the boats. I'm going to tell those guys to swim. This is one of the boats which obviously took a big hit from probably the HMGs. You can sink the boats without actually killing the people, because they are just ribs after all. So that's probably one of the reasons why those guys are just swimming around there. Now what I'm doing right here is I'm setting a new LZ and rally point. Now the LZ can apply to boats, and it can apply to helicopters, and it can apply to armored vehicles, and so on and so on. Basically whatever I choose from the spawn units point. So the reason I'm setting this one up right here is because what I want to do is spawn in some boat reinforcements. And I'm just checking on the left hand edit menu right here. I wanted to check which actual title that landing zone has, so that when I call them in, I'm ensuring that those units are going to the correct place that I want them to go to. So they've handled the second wave, I suppose. I took out this attack boats, took out the troop units, and the other amphibious armoured vehicles are kind of on the way. They take an extremely long time to get there, so they're kind of coming into the range, but they're maybe not taken out just yet. So I'm going to start by placing some of these boats down, and these are the reinforcements. So these are going to be troop carrying boats. They're unarmed ribs basically, and I'm just going to throw a ton of these guys down, and I'm going to get some action coming in onto the base. So you can place as many of these as you want to, but obviously I have to try and keep in mind a little bit the fact that there are other missions happening on the server, and I need to always be a little bit aware of frame rates and so on. The fact that I already have a reasonably large base with multiple objects set up on the island, you know, I can't call in infinite amounts if we don't want to end up in a slideshow situation, which you know, can happen. But the guys on the island, again, see, look, they're firing those rockets at the tanks. So far, nothing has really been able to get close. They're doing a really good... But look at this. You can see, like I said, this fire coming in here is from the AI. They are firing cannon from the tanks and stuff, and that's why there's guys sitting up on that rock with an AT. You can also see they're continuing to bring reinforcements in. This little bird right here coming in on the island. More guys with long-range weapons and AT launchers. So you can see right here, this guy with the missile launcher's got an RPG unit right there. And he is reloading and firing down on those vehicles. You can also see the little white water splash there. That's my boats arriving. There he goes, firing down on those guys. There goes another one. And it's really awesome to see the way that when they fire off on these things, it sort of hits the water, the whole lot explodes. And you can see this is a good perspective to have up here compared to actually from the AI point of view, and you can see the guys really sort of laying the fire down on these vehicles coming in here. You can see the AI is having a hell of a time getting up on this island. I think also, like, realistically, this is the kind of operation which would probably happen at night, so I might be up for doing another sort of similar island attack mission, but during a nighttime raid. As we go back out here, you can see just how difficult it is. For these boats coming in, they are getting absolutely peppered with bullets right now. The sound effects are so awesome in this game, always. Love it. You can see the attack boat's been pretty aggressive. You know, he's driving up on here. He's moving across, throwing the fire down. You can hear the GMGs and stuff firing off of the cannon. So they are engaging, and they are sort of, you know, driving around the area here. The rest of these boats, some of them have come out a little bit under attack. It's always very tricky for me to get like a good angle of view on the water, because as you can see, when I move up and down, it's very easy to kind of slip into that. So here we are, we've taken control of one of the troop boats, one of the ribs, and we're just going to try and get these guys onto the island. But this was really great because it shows you from the AI point of view just how much fire these guys are taking coming in. And obviously in these little boats here, unlike the attack boats, they're very, very exposed. Providing they can get the angle on them, it's pretty good. I mean, to be fair though as well, this is a moving target. We're not going very slowly, we're not going super fast, we're not going very slowly either. So even though we're exposed, we are like a moving target at pretty good distance. I mean, we've got to be a good 800, 900 meters away, no problem at all. So the guys are doing a very, very good job of getting on target at this range, at a moving target, which is also constantly altering range, because, you know, the closer we get to the island, the range is altering, so they have to compensate for that as well. You can see here already, here we are. So we just kind of panned across this area and we continue to take a little bit of fire. But this is where it really hets up. We start taking some very heavy fire right now. And this I found was often the case, was that you'd have a few people shooting at the longer range, but as you start to get in here, they really start throwing it down. Here comes the attack boats. And again, I just love this, that like the AI is just doing its thing. So I can control a vehicle, but all these other vehicles that are coming around right here is all just under AI control, and it's all just kind of happening. And that's the best and you know, the most awesome thing about ZEUS is that, you know, with the AI you can kind of just tell it to do something, and it's a little bit random. You know, that's what's cool. It just kind of gets on with it, and it creates an experience for the people playing the game, which is obviously what you want. Okay, as you can see, most of my guys getting absolutely shredded now, and there we go, lost the rib. So they did pretty good. They lasted a little while, but as you can see, as soon as they got within 100, 200 meters of the shore, they got predictably absolutely wrecked. So I decided to change it up. We still have some boats around. They haven't all been destroyed, but now we have a 2 helicopter convoy coming in. both carrying troops, both trying to land on the island right here. And these are armed helicopters as well. Again, I'm not targeting anybody in specific. I'm just shooting vaguely along the area here to try and you know, create the impression that they're coming under some good fire here, and try and make them think, hold up, there's some people shooting at us right now. And again, the friendlies on the island are pretty quick to get on target, which is a good thing you want to see. You know, they're not sort of tunnel visioned or oblivious. They're looking around, they are communicating. Some of the guys in the chat are talking about things that are happening, reinforcements they need, where they need people to be, and so on and so on. So it's all being sort of taken on board. And you can see here now I start getting absolutely thrashed by some, well, friendly players. But this is also a good thing about ZEUS, is that I can help the AI, because the AI often flies around for way too long compared to what it actually needs to land those in. The AI tends to sort of really try not to take many risks when landing the vehicles. Not really anything you can do about that. It just will fly around and around, and it will still keep the objective in mind that it needs to land on a certain position and deploy the troops like I just did right there, but they didn't just kind of get on with it. So sometimes it's really good to leave like one helicopter flying around, and I will maybe take control of another one and then just, you know, land it in, get some troops in there. And again, you know, you don't want to make it really unfairly unbalanced. You don't want to drop off you know, 20 guys right next to 2 friendlies. That would be super, you know, unfun and boring and irritating for the people trying to play the game. But at the same time, you don't want it to be just that the guys on the island are sitting there shooting at boats that are driving up to them. That wouldn't be very exciting at all. What I'm trying to do always with the missions is try and keep it varied enough that it's difficult and they have something to think about, but not so intense that it becomes just a miserable death fest, which isn't going to be fun for anybody. So what I'm doing is I'm landing troops behind, so they have to think about stuff close quarters on the island. We have boats arriving, we have armoured vehicles arriving, we have helicopters doing flyby airstrikes, and so it gives them all these different things to think about. But at the same time, it's not about sort of abusing the players, it's about putting enough pressure on them that they don't feel completely safe and comfortable. You know, if I, with my airstrikes, with my boat attacks and so on, manage to take out like 1 or 2 guys here and there, well, you know, all the better. That makes it so that the guys are thinking, holy crap, you know, we do need to sort of pay attention here. We can't just sort of sit here comfortably shooting at whatever we feel like. You know, taking out a couple of people here and there in ZEUS is not being abusive. It's putting enough pressure on them that they have to sort of value their own life. You don't want to be in a situation where the guys are basically just sitting back going like la 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 la, just shooting at whatever the hell they want to. And there's always going to be medics and so on who are going to be there to sort of pick people back up and so on. There's guys constantly redeploying, being brought up here by the helicopters should they die and not have anyone to res them. But you can see from this situation that's happening right here where I deployed those guys previously, they had to bring some friendlies back across here to actually engage that. So just that in itself is showing that, you know, they're not all just sitting at one place on the island. They're having to split their forces, move around, they're having to come down here to think about what's happening. One of the air helicopters has decided to come back in, and bam, he takes a hit right in the ass. Down he goes. And see, this is what I'm talking about. If it was just boats driving to the island, not so exciting, but the fact that they've got helicopters coming in and they're able to shoot those down, it's creating an atmosphere and it's creating an experience which is not just target shooting gallery. And that's really, for me anyway, the whole purpose of doing ZEUS, is you're creating experience for the players. And we can see right now that most of the team are up on the top of that island there. They have a few other people spread around, and I'm just moving some of my deployment points around because I want to attack from a new position right here. You can always move around those LZs and redeploy positions, the rally points, so that you can spawn stuff in different places. So we're coming out here to the west, and I'm going to bring in some more boats and more attack vehicles, because really what I want to do again is just keep them on their toes. I want to keep the attacks coming steadily, but from maybe different positions. Because remember, although from up on that island they do have a good point of view, they will have to move and redeploy in order to get the best angle to shoot down on those guys. So if they're up on top, if they're in those towers, they're going to have to move off of there. They're going to have to move around to the west of the island in order to shoot around. So I'm trying to keep those players moving around. I don't want them to be just sort of sitting in one tower for the whole time shooting down on boats. I want to change up the direction of attacks so that they have to, you know, call in, communicate, say to everyone like, hey, they're attacking from the west, and then these guys have got to come in here, they have to move and get engaged. So here's the force that we're moving in with. Got about 4 to 5 troop deploy ribs I've got a couple of attack boats as well. And then in combination with this, I'm probably going to bring in some more helicopters. We might bring in some more armoured amphibious vehicles as well, like the Merid, and you know, just creating a force to put pressure in on them. And also, I was really hoping that some of these boats had actually made it. I was envisaging when I first put this mission together that maybe we're going to have like 2 or 3 boats would land at once, the guys would all bail out, and then there would suddenly be like a land attacking battle. But the human NATO force, they actually did such a really good job. And I have to say that when I first was creating this, really had no idea about how well they were going to do. Because as I said, although they are up in these stationary positions on the hill, they're doing a pretty good job of engaging these guys at pretty reasonable ranges, moving targets, multiple different targets, all coming from different angles, helicopters attacking them all at the same time. So they've got quite a lot to contend with, and they did a very good job of keeping these boats locked down, not enabling them to really reach the ground, and when they did, like absolutely thrashing the hell out of them. The one thing that's not on our side right here is the distance. These boats are fairly limited in speed, as you can see. They just have a little outboard motor, and so the time it takes for us to approach the island is more than enough time for the guys on the island to, as I say, redeploy their positions and contend with the new targets that are coming their way. On the other hand, as I say, if you actually look at the island, it is a reasonably large space, which is another good thing about this island. It's quite a good island for doing ZEUS stuff with, for the fact that it is quite big. But you can see yet again here, those shots that are firing down, those are again more AT missiles. So they've actually done a good job. I did actually leave some ammunition in the base on the island again, so that if there were guys with AT, because I knew that they were going to need quite a lot of it, they could either bring those ammunitions up with them, or they could go back and rearm themselves from the base. And again, these things are important when you're making a mission, because it's all very well to kind of have stuff attacking, but if the guys run out of AT missiles and there's armor approaching, they're going to be screwed pretty quickly. So often, if they're doing a defensive thing, I like to leave them with some ammo and forces so they have half a chance of actually properly defending it, because otherwise, yeah, it just becomes a bit of a kill fest for the armored vehicles that are approaching. So you can see here the island is taking some fire from those GMGs off of the attack boats, and we continue to push in right here. We haven't really taken any fire yet, but I have a feeling that's more to do with the fact that the guys on the island are prioritising other vehicles compared to us, because they don't really perceive us to be such a threat. But as you see, yet again, we get to about 200-300 meters out, and they start really hammering us. And I'm sort of just weaving around a little bit here. I was hoping that I might be able to make it a little bit more tricky. But again, this boat is slow, it doesn't have too much maneuverability. They are firing an RPG on us, but missing. And a couple of guys start taking a few hits there. The guy in the front's dead, guy in the center's dead. And we're down. Okay, back on one of the attack boats. Now I took the driver position here, and sometimes these boats can kind of slow down a little bit too much, but a lot of the time when you're driving vehicles, the AI will pretty much do its own thing. Again, when I'm driving like this, I have no ability to tell the AI, like, hey, shoot at those guys. The AI will just look around, and as it fires, and you can see the GMG gunner right here is just firing off. So I have no ability to say, like, hey, shoot at the guys on the hill there, or shoot the guys down here. As I drive around, the AI will just naturally look for targets and start engaging if it has the range. But again, it's just pretty cool, and I sometimes like to take control of the vehicles, again, just to make the sort of look of the experience. Sometimes the AI won't go places that I actually want it to. I sometimes want to do like this. I want to drive around here and you know, see what we can do, see what pressure we can put on the guys right here. And we're taking so much fire coming in right here. I decided, we did actually have a few people on the boat, but you can see that the guys on the boat have actually been pretty shredded coming in here. And then just as we go to exit the vehicle, they hit it with another RPG. So again, like I said, they're doing a really excellent job. They are not letting any of these boats get anywhere near. And as you can see from the sea, those black dots represent all of the dead AI soldiers. So yeah, just looking at the overall map over here, the overview, you can see they did a very good job of basically completely wiping that out. You can see as well right here how many friendlies are on the island. So they have quite a few up there. But again, bearing in mind they have got quite an area to cover. It always looks quite a lot more from up here on the map, but on the ground, there's often quite a surprising distance between you and other people. Okay, so we still do have these amphibious vehicles right here. and I'm continuing to tell them to keep on moving in. They basically had reached their destination point, but they still need to keep sort of moving in on the island. But right now, oh yeah, this was right here. This is the kind of thing I was talking about. You can see that one of our boats has actually landed, is driving on top of the Marine. So I'm just going to tell these guys to start moving off in another area right now, back towards the island. And again, we've got control of another boat. Still 2 guys on board. We've lost our 2 shoulder side guys, but maybe we'll make a little bit of an effort right here. And again, I want to try and keep that pressure up on the different angles as well, because we just attacked on the west hand side, so I want to come in on the southeast right here, and again see if we can sort of even get anywhere close to the island, close enough that we can actually deploy some units. But that boat is already heading into the island right here, so I just wanted to make sure that the routes are all going very well. I also wanted to check up on these other amphibious vehicles, because these guys have been sitting out here for some time. They were taking some AT fire, but I was just interested to see whether they would indeed move back towards the island. But as I say, sometimes the AI does not behave really how you want it to. I'm just deleting these guys because these are obviously sort of people that have bailed out. We also called in more reinforcements. I really wanted to get some guys on the island here, and the AI wasn't doing a particularly good job of actually getting in on the island. So when I was spawning in some reinforcements, just to control the helicopter, get it on the ground, get these guys on the ground, to try and change it up a little bit, try and put a little bit more sort of actual infantry pressure on the guys on the island. And you know, as I say, they've got more than enough people to deal with it. So I just want to give like those different options there. And also it's pretty cool if they're on the island and they see helicopters kind of coming and going, sort of landing and then dispatching. And there's nothing more sort of scary than when you're sitting there on the island and you see a helicopter come in and about 8 guys bailing out of it. It's like, yeah, that's a worry for them. So now in theory, these units will actually sort of move to their rally point. Also when the units come in, as you can see, what I'm doing just here is adjusting their default skill level. Whilst it appears that I'm putting it very high, I would point out that the AI on the server just naturally is generally of the highest level. So therefore, the level that I'm moving it to is absolutely standard for this server. Another helicopter coming in to deploy. So the AI, as you can see, when they're not coming under direct fire, they do a pretty good job of just coming straight in on the base. But as soon as you start firing at them, they will sort of hover around and around. It doesn't mean that they'll just keep doing that. They will eventually land, but just while they're taking fire, they get much more hesitant about sort of just coming in and doing an immediate landing situation. And again, just keeping the pressure up on units coming in on the bases right here. Spawn a couple of helicopters. And give that one a slightly different landing zone so that they're not going to the same landing point. Again, because what I really want to do is I want to have those troops deployed at different points on the base, so they have multiple angles they have to worry about, not just the one place at the one time. Because that's really very easy. If they have just one set of units, it means that all of the players can turn their attention to it all at the same time. I think it's unrealistic, and also, you know, I want to create more of a challenge by giving them multiple units to think about in multiple positions, so they have to spread their forces, they have to actually communicate. At the same time, I want it to look cool, so that's why I'm sort of flying by here where I know there are guys, because I want it to, you know, seem cinematic. And you can imagine if you're on the ground there and you've got boats coming in and you've got amphibious vehicles coming up and they're shooting at you, and you have big helicopters like panning in across the top of the island, you know, that's going to look really cool to you on the ground. I do think that this would be a good mission though to do as a nighttime mission. You can just imagine the, you know, heavy amount of tracer fire coming off of the island right here, explosions in water at night. It's going to look epic. So I think I will probably design like a nighttime mission for that. Okay, here we go. I think that was possibly the friendly, that's the NATO AA jet firing in on me there, sort of trying to take me out. But we managed to get it down on the ground and the forces are deploying. So here we go, the guy's bailing out. And the Taros here can generally carry more infantry than the Orca, so it also means that you have to spend a little bit more time on the ground here, just waiting for all these guys to get out. This is actually a pretty good landing zone that I selected early on for where these guys are going to come in here, because obviously they've got the rocks involved. You can see the AI guys are grouping up together in a 3, putting suppressing fire down on that guy and taking him out. So again, you know, the AI aren't incapable. I see this so often. You know, it's got to be said, like, the AI can sometimes be pretty stupid, it's just sort of standing in the open or whatever. But a lot of the time, you know, they're pretty quick to get on you and start laying that fire down. So I think it's really, you know, it's a bit of a compromise. They're the best they can be, I suppose, in many ways. It would be great to see a little bit more detail, a little bit more refinement with those. But right now, I mean, you know, beggars can't be choosers, basically. So that fire didn't go sort of unresolved for me. As you can see, we did take engine damage, we took rotor damage coming in, and so now I'm having a very difficult time gaining control back of the helicopter, at which point I think, bollocks to it, I'll let the AI sort that out. So, so the battle for the north side of the island still continues, and there's only really like 1 or 2 people here that are trying to repel this. Again, probably because the other guys don't want to be bothered to run all the way down here. So they're having a hard time really sort of contending with this. They've got quite a few infantry here, and that guy was doing a pretty good job of sort of holding his own. But at the same time, there are plenty of units here, and more helicopters coming in all the time. So this situation starts to become more difficult, and you can see right here there's another helicopter panning around. More orcas flying by as well. So again, a lot of the time as well, these are all sort of good visual distraction targets. It's all stuff where the guys on the ground are thinking like, okay, where's that helicopter? Do I need to be shooting at that? It's all distracting them away. And that's why I like to have like multiple different things happening at the same time, because, you know, I want those guys on the island to be thinking about what it is that they have to do, what do they have to prioritize, where they need to be. Do they need the AT all on the southwest? Do they need it on the north side, where they want to be? And that's really the good thing about ZEUS. So just going to start bringing one of these Marids in here. The Marid has been sort of sat out here in the water for the longest time, and it's not really been sort of pushing its way into the island. So I just took control here to again sort of try and bring the fight to the guys on the island, not just let them sit back and shoot out. So as we're moving up here with the Marid and trying to get on the land and put a bit of fight in, I definitely start to feel at this time as a ZEUS that, you know, we're getting towards maybe the later to end of the mission. You know, the guys have been fighting for about 30-40 minutes now, and this is something, again, in order to make a good mission, I feel is always really important to not let it drag on too long, because sometimes it can be like a campaign, and whilst it can be very fun and exciting to sit there in ZEUS and just drop stuff in all the time, you've got to remember that the guys on the ground there are constantly having to be worrying about their ammo running out. They're having to worry about if they die, they're going to get revived. If they don't get revived, they've got to go back to base, they've got to get their gear, they've got to come all the way back out, they've got to land, they've got to get back in position. So, you know, as the person controlling ZEUS, it's all very fun and good, but you have to try and remember it from the player point of view. Is it enjoyable for them? Are they dying too much? If people are dying too much, that's not enjoyable. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad players. It could well be that you're just putting a disproportionate amount of force in that they are unable to handle. So you have to constantly be just sort of looking at what is happening, how are they handling this, is it all going very well, and sort of, you know, taking all of that on board. At the same time, I didn't want to leave them with, like I was saying earlier, just having one attack at one position. You know, I want them, and as you can see, this is happening. Like, we've got like 3 or 4 guys looking at the north side here, trying to keep eyes on that. You've got the other team up on the top here around the science base, and they're putting the pressure back on down. You can still hear some fire coming in, and that is the Marids from the southeast now putting fire. They finally come into range after all this time. You can see the hunter from the friendlies driving up on here trying to see where this fire is coming in. But again, you know, I haven't told them to fire up here. These Marids are literally just sort of... Remember, those guys move very, very slowly in the water, and they have finally come up to a point where they're actually engaging. Managed to miss the explosion there. Good job, Luton. But of course, now the friendlies are aware that the Marids are on the way, and they're going to be putting some fire down there. Constant reinforcements coming in as always, and not to mention there's infantry down the hill here, which is also engaging these guys. So they've actually got quite a lot to contend with, even though I'd say we're kind of later, more towards the end of the mission. There is still plenty to deal here, and the guys are going to have to do well to counter those attacks before we get to the end. But overall, the guys who played this mission were very complimentary about it afterwards, because it was something that was so different to most ZEUS missions. The idea that you have like a setup pre-base, you're trying to defend a point for specific reasons and so on, it all really came together to make a really good mission. So I think, you know, this was a great one, but I definitely can design something I think even better than this. So I have some good ideas coming forward. And as I say, I've got multiple you know, mission setups that I have played out that are saved, and they're going to be able to run those at any time. So there's a lot more coming on the way. Okay, they're still firing off at the enemy helis that are sort of flying around the area. But right now there is no real area that is secured. You can see as well the scientists here that we saw from the beginning. The scientists are still secure. That was an important part of the mission, was to actually ensure that those scientists are kept safe, and they seem to have you know, transferred over to the main base right there. And again, you can see helicopters, like I was saying, the AI helicopters do land sometimes. Even though I was landing some of those helicopters earlier, this just proves that the AI helicopters can land, even if it is in a slightly noob landing style of, you know, coming in at altitude and then just vertically dropping to the floor. But still, look, you can see he's deploying his units on the ground here, and they're doing what they need to. But you can see the helicopter as well, it's already starting to take fire from up on the hill here. And the AI is finished deploying, away he goes, and the troops are in on the ground. They will theoretically now move towards the rally point. As you can see, forces here that have been deployed, moving out of the base. Whoa! And that helicopter tower we saw took off, obviously took a little bit of a hit as he was coming over there and went straight down in. Oh, okay, here we go, now the Marids. The Marid has finally moved up into the base area, and you can see that there's two here. I'm just adjusting that guy's destination point. And the interesting thing here is that I think some of the friendlies have not noticed this Marid creeping up here. This is actually a friendly orca, this is not an AI. This is a friendly orca, and unusually trying to choose a rather weird landing zone. Not sure why this is. Oh my god, he's definitely going to crash for sure. The guy's bailing out at distance. They've got no pilot of the year right there. Why didn't he just use the landing zone? It's like a designated landing bay. Anyway, so the Marid is coming up the hill here. It does look like it's got damaged damaged wheels or something, but it's definitely firing. Oh no, it's still good. He's firing at literally anything he sees right now. The guys really need some AT over here at the base right now. But this is the Marid's set destination. I told it to come here. Again, at the same time, I'm trying to balance things off here. I don't want the Marid to just sort of go driving around, just slaughtering everybody that's up here. I'm trying to balance those two things off. So, you know, you could argue, okay, this Marid has secured the point. He's waiting for the other one to move in, which is also still on the way. But the human team have actually been doing a generally good job of denying that armor. They've been taking out a long range, and as we approach with the other Marid, you can see that that one we left there has also been destroyed in the process. So whilst I was securing this one to bring up, the other one has already been taken out. So they've been doing a very good job of getting on point and taking those vehicles out. They're definitely not slacking as a team. And to be fair, although it seems like the AI and, you know, our attack has been heavily slaughtered coming in here, I would definitely say that, you know, from the human player's point of view, like I say, they've been watching multiple points all the way through. They've been dealing with different targets. They've been dealing with, you know, infantry ribs. They've been dealing with helicopters coming down. They've been dealing with armoured boats coming in. They've been dealing with armoured, you know, amphibious tanks coming in. So, you know, they've been really doing an all-around good job of securing, defending, marking targets, communicating, all of the things that you really want to be seeing happening in an Arma mission. So I was very pleased with how it played out from the player's point of view. And I say I like to think, okay, and then that one got taken down as well. Sorry if I didn't have those explosions. It was probably just that, because everybody wants to see explosions, I probably just didn't have it to hand because I was in the process of trying to manage multiple different things at the same time. Now, interestingly, this Marid, you can see, even though it managed to get to shore on its propellers, they'd actually shot out. There we go. There he goes. They'd actually shot out the wheels. It's actually a very good way of immobilizing and destroying the Marids and those non-tracked vehicles. You can always shoot the tyres out, and that will completely immobilize them. Okay, here we go. This is the last remaining unit. Whilst we were looking over there around the base at that army unit coming in here, on the south side of the island, the remaining infantry forces that you remember we saw around have been slightly withered down to the last 4 units. So these guys right here are the last remaining CSAT forces on the island, and they have no further reinforcements to come. So these, there we go, there's another one down. So these guys are the last couple here. The defending forces, as I say, have done an excellent job on this mission. They managed to keep the scientists safe. They defended the island from all different positions, from all different kinds of attacks, and all different ranges on moving targets. So they did a really, really good job of spreading out. Obviously they were communicating and dealing with everything that I threw at them. So overall, a complete success, a really, really good ZEUS mission. So that's that one for today, guys. Operation Catalyst. The guys did an excellent job. It was a great mission, and as I say, overall, you know, with the boats attacking, the helicopters coming down, I thought it was a pretty exciting mission as well. And the guys that played it out on the ground really, really enjoyed this one. It was one that people were talking about for quite a while afterwards on the server. So I hope you enjoyed this one today, guys. If you did, give it a little like. Drop your thoughts about it down in the comments below, and if you have any further ideas for ZEUS missions, always looking for that as well. Don't forget, every Friday, 23:30, that's 11:30 British time, on the live stream, Arma every Friday. Okay, that's twitch.tv/lootin, and I will see you guys next time.